This is True Haunt Lore, and tonight we're going back to post-war London, where the fog was thick, the streets were still scarred by bombs, and people did not speak too loudly about things they could not explain. In the winter of 1956, inside a small, drafty house at 63 Eswin Road in Battersea, an ordinary family began living through something that would follow them for 12 years. Not 12 nights. Not 12 weeks. 12 years. The family was called the Hitchings. Wally Hitchings drove trains for the London Underground. His wife, Kitty, was trapped in a wheelchair by severe arthritis. Their teenage daughter, Shirley, was 15 years old, quiet, artistic, and working as a seamstress while dreaming of art school. Also in the house were Shirley's strict grandmother, Ethel, and an adopted older brother named John. They were not rich. They were not famous. They lived in a cramped working-class home where the walls were cold, the air smelled of coal smoke, and everyone was just trying to get through another hard London winter. Then, one night, Shirley found something on her pillow, a silver key. It was ornate, old-looking, and completely unfamiliar. Wally tried it in every lock in the house. Doors, cupboards, drawers. Nothing. He asked the neighbors. Nobody had lost it. So the family placed the key on the mantelpiece, telling themselves it was probably some strange accident. By the next day, the key was gone. That was the first knock on the door. What came next was much louder. A few nights later, Shirley woke to a sound so violent it seemed to come from under the house itself. Deep, pounding blows shook the floorboards. The walls trembled. The windows rattled in their frames. Wally knew that sound. He had lived through the Blitz, and he said it sounded like bombs falling. But there were no aircraft overhead, no sirens, no explosions in the street. The noise was inside the house. Then came the scratching. Fast, low, crawling behind the walls, as if something with claws was dragging itself through the plaster, looking for a way in. The neighbors woke up. Police were called. Officers searched the home from top to bottom. They checked the rooms, the attic, the floors, the pipes. Nothing. But while they stood there, listening, the knocks kept coming. Heavy, deliberate, mocking. Soon, the sounds were happening almost every night. Wally grew so exhausted he had to stop driving trains because he was afraid he would fall asleep on the job. Kitty sat helpless in her chair, listening to the house attack itself. Shirley became pale, tense, afraid to be alone. Then the thing stopped hiding behind the walls. Objects began moving. Cups slid across tables and smashed against the floor. Heavy pots flew from the stove. A mantel clock lifted into the air, hung there for a heartbeat, then crashed down and shattered. Slippers moved across the carpet as if worn by invisible feet. But the worst of it always centered on Shirley. Whenever the entity came near her, the room turned ice cold. Her breath would fog in front of her face, even when the fire was burning. She said it felt like a hand made of winter pressing against her skin. And one night, her parents heard her screaming. They ran upstairs and found Shirley floating above her bed. Her body was arched backward. Her arms and legs were stiff. The blankets were twisting around her in the air like they had been caught in a storm. Wally and John grabbed her and tried to pull her down, but something pulled back. Something invisible. Something strong. Shirley screamed that she was losing her mind. Her grandmother dropped to her knees and prayed, shouting that the devil had entered the house. Then, suddenly, whatever held Shirley let go. She collapsed onto the mattress, shaking and bruised. After that, the family became desperate. A spiritualist medium was invited to the house to hold a seance. The lights were turned out. The family sat around a table in the dark, hoping to make contact with whatever was tormenting them. The room grew cold. Then came the smell. Damp earth. Rot. A grave opened somewhere in the dark. The table began to shake. Sharp taps came from the wood. The medium tried to speak calmly, but even he became frightened. He said the presence was not peaceful. It was chaotic, angry, childish. And after that seance, the haunting got worse. Word spread through Battersea. Reporters came. Curious neighbors came. Skeptics came. Then an investigator named Harold Chibbett entered the case. The family called him Chib. Chibbett believed this was a poltergeist, and he thought the energy was somehow tied to Shirley. He began documenting everything, Every bang, every scratch, every flying object, every impossible note. Then he tried something simple. He placed alphabet cards on a table and asked the spirit to tap out letters. At first, there was only silence. Then the knocks answered. Slowly, a personality emerged from the darkness. The family nicknamed it Donald. Donald was not shy. He was arrogant, jealous, demanding, and cruel. Through knocks and written notes, he claimed he was not just a ghost. He claimed he was Louis Charles, the lost son of Marie Antoinette and King Louis XVI of France. It sounded ridiculous. But then the notes began appearing. Paper and pencil were locked inside a room. The key was kept by Chibet. Hours later, the door would be opened, and the paper would be covered in strange writing. Sometimes there were dozens of notes in a single day. Some were written in broken French and English. Some demanded attention. Some complained. Some sounded like they came from a spoiled child. And one message, scrawled on the wall, chilled Shirley more than all the rest. Shirley, I come. The newspapers accused Shirley of faking everything. A teenage girl, an art student, a troubled daughter in a tense house. That was the easy answer. But then the case became harder to dismiss. Police heard the knocks. Surveyors inspected the house and found no explanation. Visitors saw objects move. Notes appeared while Shirley was watched. Fires started when nobody was near them. Yes, fires. At the darkest point, Donald began playing with flames. Shirley woke to find her bedsheets smoldering. Tea towels burst into fire in the kitchen. Then Shirley's grandmother, Ethel, heard a voice in the hallway. She said it was the voice of her dead mother calling from the shadows. Soon after, Ethel suffered a massive stroke and died. The family believed Donald had taken his first victim, and Shirley still could not escape. The knocks followed her onto London buses. People stared as the floor beneath her feet began to pound. At Selfridge's, where she worked, sewing tools vanished from her station and reappeared in impossible places. When her manager learned she was the girl from the Battersea poltergeist case, Shirley lost her job. Even her relationships were attacked. One boyfriend came to the house for tea, and a bowl of fruit lifted from the sideboard and dumped itself over his head. Another was chased outside by gravel that rose from the ground. In 1964, after 8 years of torment, the Hitchings family moved. They thought leaving 63 Eswin Road would end it. They were wrong. Donald followed. The knocks became less frequent, but the notes continued. Shirley eventually married, but Donald made it clear he hated her new life. He wrote disapproving messages, like a jealous shadow refusing to let go. Then, in 1968, 12 years after the silver key appeared on Shirley's pillow, it ended. A final note appeared in the kitchen. Donald said he was leaving for a far country. And then, silence. No more knocks, no more fires, no more notes, no more invisible hands in the dark, just silence. The house at 63 Eswin Road was later demolished, but the questions never were. Was Donald really a lost spirit, clinging to a frightened girl in a cold London house? Was he something darker wearing the mask of a dead prince? Or was the real horror even stranger? That the human mind, under pressure, can create something powerful enough to shake walls, start fires, and destroy a life? Shirley Hitchings survived, but her youth was stolen by something nobody could fully explain. And somewhere in the old records of Battersea, among the police reports, newspaper clippings, and pages of strange handwriting, one message still feels like it was never meant to be read. Shirley, I come. This was true haunt lore, and until next time, keep questioning the darkness. So, after unpacking the pure, psychological torment we just explored, the deafening knocks that sounded like falling bombs, the terrifying written messages from the entity known as Donald, and the horrifying reality that this poltergeist followed Shirley for 12 long years, you're probably wondering, what exactly is the vibe at 63 Eswin Road in Battersea today? Well, my personal take on this infamous London location right now is all about its deeply deceptive, modern charm. If you travel to Battersea today, expecting to find a dark, drafty, Hollywood-style haunted house, you will be completely caught off guard. During the daylight hours, this neighborhood actually possesses a remarkably serene and peaceful aesthetic. The original house at 63 Eswin Road was later demolished. Replaced by newer developments and sitting on a normal, bustling London street, it feels incredibly cozy. Bathed in the soft British sun, the area genuinely looks like a bright, picturesque Thomas Kinkade-style painting of a peaceful, modern neighborhood. Today, it is just an ordinary patch of earth where a cramped working-class home used to stand. But honestly, from my perspective, that picture-perfect, innocent exterior is exactly what makes the reality of the Battersea poltergeist so deeply unsettling. The contrast is just jarring, because while it looks like a serene neighborhood by day, the terrifying history of what happened on that exact plot of land refuses to be ignored. You can be walking down that brightly lit street, but the moment you remember the spontaneous fires, the flying objects, and the smell of damp earth and rot that once filled the air, that suffocating dread rushes right back in. The original house may be gone, but the memory of Donald, whether he was a lost prince, a dark entity, or something created by the human mind under pressure, still lingers in the history of Battersea. The Battersea case proves that you can demolish a haunted house, but you can never demolish the fear it left behind. Thanks for joining me on this case here on True Haunt Lore, and I'll catch you in the next mystery.